Hello and welcome to the latest in the series of deep probing analysis into my tournament experiences. This one is of course Deadzone, as you can see, just in case you can't see the picture because it occasionally blanks out at the start of some of these broadcasts. So there you go. Deadzone. This is the Return to Nexus Psi tournament, which took place yesterday at Element Games in Stockport. And 200 points. I believe there were supposed to be around about 14 players. I think a couple of people may have dropped out, so it might have been 12 players in the end. Something like that anyway. And 200 points, so I've got my list right in front of me. I've got some other tournament documents in front of me, which I'll rustle for effect in front of the microphone there, so you can hear that. And as far as the tournament rules go, there are a few experimental things coming in here. The Plague Aberration, which is a unit I like to use, that had tough in this tournament, which makes it much tastier. So people were rushing to paint them the night before the tournament, people who don't usually bring them because they weren't considered optimal enough. Zombies, unlike the last tournament, zombies wouldn't give away victory points if you killed multiples of them. However, nowadays, zombies can't do anything with items, which is very unfortunate because that they also can't take intel, that means, as well, which of course they used to be quite handy for, not giving away a victory point, and also the ability to go around and just look at all the items and see what's in them without risking your models that would give away victory points is always nice. So I haven't painted anything new for Deadzone for a while, but my Plague collection is pretty decent. I've got plenty of zombies at least. So I'll tell you what I've got in my list in a second when we get to a full picture of it. You can see here that there is going to be an Aberration versus Aberration battle at some point during this tournament from the little thumbnail image here. So mission 1, divide and conquer. So the tournament scoring in this tournament particularly, 4 points for a win, 2 for a draw, 0 for a loss, which is unusual. In tournaments you normally get 1 morale boosting point for a loss, and they score it that way. But no, you also get 1 point if you kill the enemy leader as well. So you can potentially pick up 5 points per game, so a maximum of 20 throughout the tournament. And then it's first to 20 victory points will win. Or in the case of, it takes place at the end of the turn. So if both players are above 20 points at that stage, then it's whoever's highest. And anything else on the tournament scoring? Other than the fact that victory points are used to break ties in the leaderboard, and that's about it. If anything else comes up, then I'll mention it when it's relevant. So this mission 1, divide and conquer. You can see the deployment, a little bit different from what you normally see in deployment. Some of these I feel they were experiments that are being tested out at the moment to potentially go into a Deadzone rulebook or something like that. A lot of them were existing scenarios with tweaks to them, or certain things that you don't normally see. There's one scenario coming up later with split deployment, for example, which we will get to, of course. So you can see there's some very, very juicy, expensive objectives there, both worth 2, which is nice because I feel when it's just objectives that are worth 1, it's not that much of an incentive to go after them and put your models in harm's way to acquire them. But with this, not only is it worth 2, but you've also got another one worth 2 right next to it. So if you want to control one of them, then you're also risking facing the onslaught of whatever was perched next to you from the enemy that could attack. So do you send all your beefy stuff over there, or do they clash in the middle and let the small skirmishy little units fight it out over the points? We shall see. And you can see here, discovering intel gets you a victory point, which occasionally comes up and can tip the balance. Killing enemy models will give you victory points, of course. And occupying the objective at the end of the round, you get 2 for each one. Okay, so there is the layout for this game, and you can see my force here at the bottom of the screen. You can see there are lots of these grey crates around. These are the items. Some people have these fancy schmancy plastic crates that they like to use instead of just the upside down cards. And you can see the objectives there, and the other 2 are down here. One is among that tree, and the other one is down on the ground level there that you can't actually see at the moment. Very, very nice terrain at this tournament all round, I felt, especially the boards I played on. I don't think any of them were bad. Even though there were a couple of people who didn't turn up were supposed to be bringing terrain with them, I think. So a couple of them were thrown together from what was available at Element Games. So let's have a look at my forces. Here we go. You can see that I've got a Plague Swarm there, a Mortar Team, it's the first time I've used that, Grenade Launcher, and HMG. I've got 2 dogs there, and there's another one around somewhere. I've got 2 zombies, you can see one of them there. Got the Aberration, I've got the Stage 1 as my leader, and I've got a Stage 2 under there as well. Let's see, is there anything else on the list that I haven't mentioned because it's not visible? I don't think so. So I haven't actually got much that can be picking up items because I've got a lot of beasts. I've got the 3 dogs, 2 zombies, and the Plague Swarm are all beasts, so they can't deal with items. I've got all my, what you would call regular plague soldiers, are all involved in weaponry somehow. There's the Mortar Team and the 2 specialists, so they're not wanting to be running out there to collect items or anything like that. So when scenarios like that come up, we'll see whether that's in my favour at all. I don't have a lot of throwaway troops, just the 2 zombies, really. The dogs, of course, you could say they're kind of throwaway, but they are giving away a victory point when they die, unlike the zombies. And my enemy is also the Plague, with an eerily similar list to mine. It also has a Stage 1 as the leader, and an Aberration and a Plague Swarm, and a couple of zombies, some dogs, a mortar in that building there. There's an HMG somewhere as well. The main difference is that he doesn't have a grenade launcher, and he does have a Teraton. I'm not sure if there are any other differences. Those may be the only models that are different. I think both of our HMGs may have ammo as well. So very, very similar lists, but I do have slightly more firepower. So what I'm hoping in this setup is that I can slightly have the edge in terms of whittling down the enemy on its way into the fight with my superior firepower. We'll see whether that works, though. I do have a terrible habit of losing all the recon rolls in Deadzone, which usually doesn't work to my advantage because some of my models get killed before I've even moved them, generally. Okay, there's my command dice for the first turn. You can see how in-depth these pictures are going to be here. Move dice, which are always helpful when I'm trying to get forward into combat. Shoot dice, which is handy because I've got several shooty units at the moment, and the extra dice is always nice. I probably got some splats and re-rolled them because the Stage 1 splat is pretty awful, the mutation. It's occasionally useful, but you can't decide when it's going to be useful. It's just complete random. And there's the enemy splat. Now, I think he's got 2 shooter units, so he could make use of the 2 shoot dice. He's got a move as well and a useless splat. So this is his HMG, which came forward because he won the recon roll, and I think he moved it forward a cube. And then his first activation, he brought it forward and took a pot shot at some of my units and didn't do much, but he did suppress the cube. And then he was gunned down because my HMG went up into this tower and had a clear shot at him out in the open there. So toasted him lightly. So there's the first blood, the first kill for me, but he has disrupted my ranks somewhat. Then his mortar goes off and it looks like it kills that zombie, which is unfortunate. So it will have landed in this cube here, but it obviously didn't affect the Stage 1 because he's too much of a beast to be concerned with mortars. But obviously, if he's pinned, he's not bothered either. Because he's such a beast, his speed isn't actually affected. It's really because he's so slow. Even if you pin him, it doesn't slow him down at all, because he can't get any slower. Then I move up one of my zombies, the one that's base is saturated with blood and gore. He's moved up onto one of the objectives there, so we'll see who the enemy are going to send into this cube, which has the other objective, because I've got quite a lot of small, fast dogs and the like around this area. His Plague Swarm moves onto that objective up there, the other one's down here. So how am I going to counter that? Well, my mortar, I think it fires and then jumped off this wall down to here. Because I think I had my grenade launcher up there as well, and I didn't want to have both of them in the same cube. But it missed when it fired, by the way. I think I used a move dice to get it down there. You can see that his Teraton has got over here onto this objective, which is quite a menacing prospect. I don't think the dogs want to kamikaze into the Teraton particularly, neither does the zombie. Because even if you think, well, you could team up on him, the first one that goes in is probably going to die, so then there's nothing to team up with when you get there. So I'm going to have to send something stronger over here to deal with him, because he's probably not going to move too far, since he is sitting on that 2-point objective there. Then his stage 1 has moved up, and it's going to be a bit of a stare down, because we've both got our stage 1s and aberrations, which are going to be moving somewhat towards each other down the middle if we just keep going straight forward from deployment. So we'll see whether anyone deviates from that path or not. Zombie and dog as backup. The thing with the stage 1, with it being size 3, then you can actually send a small model like that in to help out occasionally. With the aberration, because it's so big, nothing else can fit in the cube. So that really has to fight on its own. Then here I've sent one of my dogs up there. I'm not worried about his shooting now, because he's lost his HMG and it's really only his mortar, so I'm not worrying about standing out in the open, giving him clear shots or anything. I don't have to leave anyone's fingernail poking round a corner to avoid being clear shot to death, because he doesn't have guns left. Aberration going up with a zombie behind it. His zombie has gone up into this tower as well. You can figure out where that is because the Teraton's down there sitting on an objective. And down here he sends a dog in to attack my zombie, but it has no effect. And then I counter his plague swarm with the plague swarm of my own over here onto that objective. So whoever goes first with their plague swarm in the next round is going to have the slight edge, because of course you'll get the extra dice for moving into combat should they choose to fight each other. And that could make the difference. Down here, I've got my aberration down there, and I think he may have a move dice. So I didn't want his aberration to use that and get the first strike into my aberration. So I just put this stage 2 here as bait, thinking, well, if he comes in and doesn't kill me, that's fine because he's held up. And if he comes in and does kill me, I can get the first strike in the aberration versus aberration battle. Then down here you can see there's his stage 1 as well, slowly creeping up opposite mine right there. So they're slightly out of range of each other. Even with a move dice, they wouldn't be able to reach each other at the moment. So both being very cautious there. Even if you get the first strike in with a stage 1 versus a stage 1, it's very unlikely that you'll kill each other. They'll probably just be hitting each other with pillows for the entire game should they get into a one-on-one duel. And you can see there at the end of round 1, 3 victory points for me for the opponents. So that's obviously first killing certain units, not that much died, and then some for sitting on objectives. I think he got all of his for sitting on objectives, actually. I got 1 objective and killed the HMG. But it's about to get spicy in this round because obviously we're in range to strike. So I've got an activation dice, 2 move dice, 2 fight dice, and an extra dice, which is quite a nice combo for the plague. Wall Under TV loves my photos, apparently. And here is the opponent's dice here. We've got a nice variety, although the splat is pretty horrible for the stage 1. So all those are quite nice, though. Activation, move, shoot, which he'll be able to use with his mortar, and the fight dice, which will be handy. So I think he goes first, and the first thing he does, let's see, I think he may use his activation dice to go first with 2 models here. So the aberration goes in and kills the stage 2, and this plague swarm goes in and does 2 damage to my plague swarm. So what that has achieved is it means because he had the activation dice and was able to go first with 2 units, had he just gone in here with his plague swarm and attacked my plague swarm, then I could have then countered with the stage 2 going in there to help, which with the extra dice for having a buddy may well have not necessarily gone in my favour, but at the very least when the plague swarm got to attack again, it would have had a friend in there, which would have been helpful. So that would have been moving in my favour. But he had the activation dice, so he was able to take out that potential support there. And also doing 2 damage, not very nice for me at all. And that's going to be a slightly losing battle now because he was able to strike first. Over here, I use a move dice on my stage 1 and send it into the Teraton and do 3 damage to it. So it's almost dead, but I couldn't quite finish it off. So is that going to come back and bite me? We shall see. And his mortar, what's it going to do this time? Well, look at that. It just kills my grenade launcher in one go. Wow. So it was a direct hit, I think. Or it may have actually been aiming at my mortar and scattered onto the grenade launcher. Either way, it killed him. So wow indeed. I seem to remember every time his mortar fired, most of the time it scattered but still landed on my units, which says to me that I need to spread out more. And every time I fired the mortar, it just completely missed. And the grenade launcher didn't do too much at all. So his dog charges in there to help in this fight, but totally kamikazes and just dies against the plague swarm of mine that was wounded. So dogs running in to help, it's good in theory, but when the creature in there is an absolute beast, they don't last long. So it just steaming in, teeth bared, and just ow, dead. Down here, let's see, my dog rushes in there with the zombie for support who was already there, and I wound his dog. So in theory, that fight should move in my favor as it goes on. But then his zombie moves in to support and kills my zombie, which isn't very nice at all. So it's evened it out a bit there. And then I send a dog in, and I can't remember which one I attacked, whether it was a zombie or the wounded dog, but either way, I should have won, really. And then, dead dog. Not even wounded, just dead. I was rolling quite badly in this game, if you haven't noticed already. And then his wounded dog attacks my perfectly healthy dog, which should be even, because he gets the extra dice for having a friend. I have one because he's wounded. But again, my dog just dies. Not even wounded, just dies. So, wow. Against the odds, losing some of my very valuable objective hopping units there. And then, at this stage, I had completely forgotten, or I just didn't know, that in Deadzone you can activate a unit and choose to not do anything. So I actually chose to fight his plague swarm, and of course it got killed. Had I known that you could just activate and do nothing, then obviously I would have done that, because the fight was an uphill struggle, so it would have kept him alive for another turn. But obviously I know that now. So here's my other dog who's jumped up onto the objective that's up here. The plague swarms are fighting down here, and the dog is up there for reference. Down here, you can see he's holding this with the two annoying models that should probably, at least that dog should be dead, and I should have a dog or two alive in there, ideally. And then my stage one still fighting the Teraton, who of course doesn't activate because he doesn't want to die. Well, he does activate, but he chooses to do nothing, which I'm not sure about as a game mechanic. I'm not sure whether activating and choosing to do nothing should deprive the enemy of the chance to hit you. It's an interesting debate to be had. So the Aberration versus Aberration fight ends up over here, because I attack his Aberration with mine and keep knocking it back in this direction and then moving in to attack it again. But it's looking like a bit of a stalemate at the moment. So after turn 2, obviously with all the stuff he managed to kill, he got up to 15 victory points, of course, holding on to a lot of them as well, holding on to this one and one on the other side. And I'm not holding on to much at all, so I've got 6, because I killed one model, which was a dog, even though I should have killed a lot more than that in that turn, but for the bad dice rolling and then holding this objective here. There's my dead pile at this stage. So my HMG, which is out of focus because the focus is on the area that he just cleared, by moving out here and getting an in the open shot against the plague swarm that was in there and just killed it in one go from being above it, having the open shot. And not sure if he used his ammo or he probably had extra dice thrown on it just to guarantee the kill there. So killed that, so that was nice. But then his mortar lands on it directly and kills it in one go. So that's just the way it's been going with his mortar versus my mortar. His has been performing significantly better than mine. Then down here, it looks like nothing at all is going on. Aberration versus Aberration, I'm still fighting. I think they're both in this cube here, but obviously they won't fit. So at the end of turn 3, I did get a few more points there, so it's 10-18. So it looks like he's probably going to win at the end of the next turn, most likely, but we'll see whether I can put a stop to that. So here's my dice. I've got a move, shoot, fight dice and a useless splat. And he's got a pretty similar setup. He's got an extra activation dice, and since he's been going first mostly, I'm not sure whether that's the case in this turn, but it might well be. And anytime your opponent is going first and they have an activation dice, and they have extra shoot dice and extra fight dice, they can really kill multiple models before you've had a chance to do anything. Then, his Aberration, of course, my Aberration has attacked his multiple times and done absolutely nothing. And the one time that his makes the attack on mine, look at that, 3 damage. Wow, wow. So I'm just rolling really badly in this game. Dog's still chilling up there. My stage 1 kills off his Teraton. And then I think I use a move dice to go into that cube and kill the dog that was in there. But then his stage 1 that was just chilling on the other side uses his move dice to come down here and just sit on this objective. So he's definitely going to win now because I've got nothing to attack this guy with. And yeah, that's going to be it. So I don't know. I don't think I took a picture of the final victory point chart here, but I can tell you that it ended 16 points to me, 20 to him. So he was really guaranteed to win after ending turn 3 with 18 points. So the dice rolling let me down, but also I think my deployment was a bit messed up. I haven't used 2 indirect fire weapons in a list before, and I had them both starting on the same cube, I think, which meant I had to move one of them to avoid being mortared to death. And then neither of those units performed at all, and his obviously did, as you saw. So I didn't have the shooting supremacy that I wanted. And then this little fight here that took place between the dogs mainly, that comically went against me for some reason, which meant that I had nothing to contest all this lot with. So that's, let's see, because if that had gone a different way, I would have been able to sit on objectives then, and it would have been a very, very close one at that stage, because his stage 1 wouldn't have been able to clear them both off. So at that point, it would have gone on to another turn probably, and I would have been right in there. So very, very close. Plague versus Plague, 2 very, very similar lists. So obviously, if one of them is doing better on the dice, you're going to lean towards them in terms of the win with such similar builds. So mission 2 after that loss. No one killed the leader, by the way, so it was just 4-0 in points. And moving on to mission 2, so Scour version 2.0. So this is a scenario that exists in Deadzone already, but it's being tweaked. So you can see the deployment map is in the corners. They've been slightly enlarged, I'm led to believe, compared to the regular rulebook. And also, you'll see down here that intel is immediately worth 2, and picking up any item and depositing it in the corner square is worth 2 points instead of 1. And you don't have to leave the board with it either. You just drop it there and then you can come back into the action, which is nice. However, the 2 armies that you'll see coming up here, it's my Plague versus the Marauders. Now, neither of us have that many models that are actually going to be picking up items and dropping them, because they're either big things that are so slow they'll take themselves out the game by doing that, or there's beasts as well. He's got quite a few more beasts. I think they're still called more beasts in Deadzone, aren't they? And I don't think I've played against Marauders before. If I have, it's been a while, and I've definitely never played against a list like this. So I've obviously got this corner, and you can see where the crates ended up, which are, of course, vital in this scenario. Of course, one of them could be booby-trapped, but you want to get those items, and you want to be dropping them off for... It is for 2 points, isn't it? Let's see. Oh, no, it's not. It's 1 victory point for dropping off the item, but you don't have to leave the board, and it's 2 for intel. Okay, yeah, that's right. So dropping off the items, it's worthwhile because you're not leaving the board with it. And intel is, of course, a big deal in this one. So there's a lot of luck involved in this scenario. The placement of the crates is a big deal. So you can see my strategy here. I've put things that can't pick up crates up here, mainly, or things that aren't going to pick them up. I've got a dog down there, 2 zombies, and I've got my indirect fire weapons, which aren't going to be moving much. Over here, I've put things like the stage 2 and the HMG, which is all right to move and still shoot. So those 2, I'm hoping, are going to be picking up items and then bringing them back, hopefully. Those are the 2 most suitable models for doing that job, because the grenade launcher and the mortar can't move and still shoot. So You can see a nice close look at my lines there. He does have some indirect fire, so I've tried to spread out as much as possible, but his indirect fire is one use only. I think it's on, is it on the Rainmakers? They have a one-off rocket barrage or some such. So I'm wary of that and spread out as much as possible. But after the first salvo, I should have the ranged, the indirect superiority at least. He's got more ranged power than I have. But as far as indirect, and indirect is ideal for this table because this building has no windows at all. So this is a huge block, and this one here doesn't have any either. And I think this edge has no windows either, so there's lots of places to hide. Of course, if you get high up on these buildings, then you'll be able to see everything. But until that point... Okay, so his force has got 2 Rainmakers, 2 of the close combat equivalent of whatever they're called, and his leader is hiding under there. And then he's got some more beasts. He's got one there, and he's got a sniper somewhere. Where's the sniper? I'm not sure which one the sniper is. And his leader that's hiding is the one that can steal the enemy's dice with its splat, which I don't like as a mechanic. Things people don't like in games generally involve having things stolen from you before you can use them. Preventing your models from activating is something people hate. And it goes over into board gaming and card games as well. People hate a mechanic that makes you lose a turn. They just see it as really lazy game design. So I'm not a big fan of the whole stealing someone else's command dice mechanic. It reminds me of in Warhammer when the dwarves could steal everyone's magic dice, and there was nothing that got people angrier than that. It's just something people hate, and there should be more creative rules that have a similar effect that don't directly steal things from your opponent or prevent them from activating things, is the way I would look at it. So I'm not a fan of the old stealing people's command dice. There's my dice. Now, anytime I get a move dice, because I need that to get my slow things forward, and also I'm going to need it to pick up the objectives and then bring them back. I'm going to need it to get close to combat as well. He's going to be looking to steal that probably whenever he gets the opportunity. And look at that, I've got 2 of my useless splats, which would have been re-rolled, but they just still came up as splats. So, wow, I've got activation and the fight as well. So unless I can roll multiple move dice, I know for a fact it's going to get stolen, most likely. And he's got a splat, so he can steal 1. Extra dice, activation, and shoot. Okay, so one of his Rainmakers has moved up onto there. Wall Under TV says, I'm not going to lie, I love specialized dice. I do like the command dice, I just don't like the idea that they can be stolen by the opponent. Okay, so his indirect fire weapon goes off first, and these 2 aren't dead, they're just pinned at this stage. So that was lucky. The dog and the grenade launcher, but the grenade launcher is not going to be able to fire this turn now because he's been pinned unless I use a shoot dice. Then the other one, that pins the stage 2 and the plague swarm. It does a wound to the stage 2 as well. So not a lot of killing, but lots of just blowing people up and sending them flying. Let's see what my mortar can do to retaliate. Nothing. I think it missed again. But my HMG is able to shoot down there where his sniper had moved up and suppress him. I think it may have wounded him as well. Then, well, what's going on here? Look at that. Picked up a crate, and of course it was a booby trap. So that sends the stage 1 flying into that cube and sends the HMG flying into that cube. He's carrying a grenade, by the way, but he's probably not going to use it. He's probably going to walk back and deposit it to get the victory points. So very bad luck there. The dog is just staring at that crate. He's not going to be able to pick it up. He's just sitting on it and hiding out of the view of anyone that could shoot it. And you can see a bit of an overview here. So this guy's still lying down, but I'm actually going to use that. I'm going to keep him lying down there and try and bait this orc, or this marauder, should I say, into attacking him while he's down, thinking that he's in with a chance, because I don't think you would be able to take down even a prone stage 1. So I'm going to use that as bait. I'm going to leave it for quite a few goes before activating him. Normally you'd think, well, he's down, he's vulnerable, you better stand up quick. But no, I'm going to leave him there and try and tempt him to come in. We'll see if it works. You can see that we're both not able to pick up too many objectives and dropped them off yet, and no intel discovered thus far. So I've got 1 victory point, he's got 3. Now, what is it for at this stage? I can't remember. So something must have been killed, but I can't remember what. Is one of my dogs dead? It looks like one of the dogs has got killed, because I can't see all of them. Actually, it may not have done. Let's see. That might be that one that's down there fighting, actually. So in the next turn, I get one of my dogs charging into this guy. I'm not sure what he does, but he was holding an item, so I thought I'll go for it. But of course, the dog got wounded as a result of that, unfortunately. And my dog bounded up there. And what was there? I think it was, let's see, it was a Moorbeast. So my dog jumped up there and killed the Moorbeast. So that was good. I believe that's what has happened. Let me just check. Or, yes, I think it is actually, because the one at the back bounced over here, which is the one you'll see in that image there. So one of the Moorbeasts, I think, is killed. The other one has moved over here. And the fact that he's jumped onto this section here means that none of my 2 big beasties can go up there and attack it, which is another thing I don't really like in the rules, actually. The big size 3 or 4 creatures can't go onto half cubes to fight, which is annoying, because then if you're left with a lot of large creatures and the enemy is perched on balconies with their small models, you just literally can't attack them, which I always find quite irritating. So what I would like to see, though, is if there are these big beasties that want to attack a model that's on something they can't access, that's adjacent to them, then perhaps they should be able to move in there and strike at them. And then at the end of the combat, they have to fall back onto this more stable ground that they can actually be seated on. So it's as if they're leaning in and swiping and then retreating back to where they can physically stand without falling off. I think that would make a lot more sense than that dog is just allowed to sit there, sticking its tongue out at whatever creature I've got sitting up here, even though it can clearly reach it because it's sitting right next to it on the same rooftop. But because of the rules, I'm not actually allowed to attack it, which to me doesn't make any sense. So at the end of that turn, I only picked up 1 and he got a couple more. So low scoring so far. I think he moved in and killed my dog that went up there as well. Wall Under TV says, or they could shake the terrain to knock them off. Yes, that would certainly be an option as well. Now, I've just received a text message here in the middle of the live show. Let's see if it's something important. Yes, I suppose I should reply to this. So you can just look at my command dice for a second while I go in here and type very quickly. I'm sure you're very enthralled looking at those command dice. 2 activation, 1 move, a shoot, a fight, and an extra dice, which is a good setup for me. I would have liked an extra move one and less activation, because he's just going to steal the move probably and prevent me from doing lots of things. He's got move, 2 activations, splats, so of course he's going to be stealing mine with them, and shoot. So my Aberration has a stun grenade thrown at it, which came out of a crate, which is another thing I'm going to complain about. Because when it lands, when it successfully hits, that model is considered activated. So it's just basically the Aberration missing a turn. Oh well. Then this guy, I've taken a picture of him, so he must have done something. He has downed that Moorbeast. Has he killed it, though? I think he's only suppressed it. Then over here, the grenade launcher's gone to pick up that item because there's nothing for him to shoot at right now. Thing that he wants to shoot, really. And down here, this guy has hopped around sneakily, and he attacked. What did I have in there that he has attacked? It was the Plague Swarm. So I moved the Plague Swarm out of combat because I want to attack with this guy. So the Plague Swarm, I don't know if I took any damage while escaping, but I want to send this guy in now. At the end of that turn, you can see I picked up 2 more, he picked up 2 more, so still very low scoring. And at this stage, you would assume that Oh, just had another text here. Suppose I better check this. It's just typical, isn't it? People sending texts in the middle of a live show. Just replying very fast. Okay, and there we go. Right, next, in this turn, 2 move dice, 2 extra dice, and a fight, which is all right. And my opponent has a shoot and extra move, fight, and a dice. So look at this terrible attack. I actually send the Aberration into this guy in the end. And look at that attack roll. All those dice, I only got 3 hits. All those ones failed. Wow, wow, wow. So my dice rolling is not performing so far in this tournament. The stage 1 gets open shots from one of his dudes that's sitting up on the roof, and it does 3 damage. So that's not very nice. So he has to run off to hide behind that corner and hopefully not get killed before the end of the game, which wouldn't be very nice at all. Then we've got this guy who finds some intel, which of course is crucial in this scenario because it gets you 2 victory points. So that's very nice for him, very bad for me. And you can see the layout here. A few things have died, and I've lost all my fast models, unfortunately. I've lost my dogs and the grenade launcher specialist, who is fairly fast as well, and of course, the HMG is still alive. He's actually deposited an item, but that's only worth 1 victory point. But I've lost a lot of speed, and I'm being deprived of all my move dice because he's just taking them all from me, which is not fun at all. And there we go. You can see at the end of turn 4, I did pick up more points, and he picked up a few, so it's 9-10 at this stage, but we're not going to pick up enough victory points to actually make it a win, because even if you win 19-0, it's still considered a draw in this tournament, which I'm not really a fan of, because there are some armies and some scenarios where, in combination, it's very, very difficult to actually reach the requisite number of victory points. So here we go into the last turn. You can see he's got his Rainmakers sitting up on the roof, so they're going to be raining death down upon me. He's hoping, at least. And he's got the close combat guy perched in there as well. And you'll see a mistake that I've made in a minute, because he is able to make it into this mortar here. And because he can get there in one go, because he can just bounce. And if he's not fast enough, then he's definitely got move dice. But I think he could make it there in one fell swoop. Could he? Because I think he had another potential move there. But not much happened, really. Most of the shooting failed to do anything. I didn't really have any shooting to do. I may have attempted to plink a few shots at one of them. But he came in with this beastie here and attacked the mortar, did damage to it, couldn't kill it. I had this guy there as backup. I made some mistake, though, because this guy was perched there, I think, to get him out of harm's way, to stop him being killed, without realizing that he could have just gone 1-2 and then with a move dice gone in there and killed him. That was probably the mistake I was thinking of. But he went for the mortar in the end, even though that's size 3, so I think he had less chance of killing that. And, of course, he didn't kill it. So it ended 10-10, so it's just a draw, as much of a draw as you can get. And very unfortunate. So 2 victory points each. No leaders were killed. His leader never actually came into view. It was completely hidden the whole game, so I never had a chance to shoot at it or kill it. And mine almost died. So going into game number 3. Here we go. The circus. Now, this is the split deployment I was talking about. So one side deploys in those 2 areas, and you have to split your army by model count. And then the other player does so in those deployment areas there. And the objectives are around the middle. And all the objectives being fairly close together means that going for them, it's not like you're taking a model out of the game by putting them on an objective. You're still within striking distance of all the other objectives. And you can see Intel will give 1 VP. And killing models, of course, and the objectives. So this is the table, and there's a lot of high ground, and I actually won the recon roll, and I picked the corners that I was going to take. So I took the highest ones because I was against Asterians, and they had a lot of shooting units. So I didn't want him to be on the 2 highest points of ground. So I picked those 2 corners, and he was having to settle for either being on the ground or on this small tower here instead of the gargantuan towers. And I've put some of my stuff, because there isn't much that completely obscures line of sight, so I just put them up as high as possible behind things, so he's not going to have open shots on me. On this corner, I've got most of my firepower, actually. I've got my mortar and grenade launcher down there, and I've got the HMG on the roof, a dog at the back, and the stage 1 up there. In this corner, I've got the Aberration, stage 2, and underneath I've got the Plague Swarm, a zombie, and I think there's a dog under there as well somewhere. In this corner, he's got a drone. Now, the pale ones are the Asterians that are most of his army is constructs, by the way, so they have the vulnerable rule, so you have to do less damage to them to kill them. I think that's just the blue ones, the light blue ones. The darker blue ones are the slightly tougher ones, and he's got one with a rocket launcher in there as well. And in this corner, he's got 2 of the little floaty bike things, another drone, and his leader with a sword and shield is under there, along with 2 slightly tougher things. So rocket launcher is the first thing that's going to do anything in this game, and it puts 4 damage in 1 shot onto the Aberration. Wow, that is bad. So not a good start there. My HMG is going to go next, and it just kills one of his floaty bike things instantly from being on higher ground, using his ammo, I think, and maybe I threw an extra dice in there. I don't think I took a picture of the command dice for this game. Then the indirect fire, the mortar and the grenade launcher, let's see what they did. Well, they've wounded this thing. Most of his units can't actually be pinned or suppressed, but of course they can be exploded and thrown into walls and such, so still useful. My stage 1's just going out, not exactly into the open because he's got that log protecting him, but he wants to be on an objective, because this is one of the few occasions where him being on an objective is actually a threat to all the other objectives on the table. Because if I have a move dice, I can actually reach 2 of them at least. I've got the dog on this one. I've got a dog pouncing on that one. So I'm going to be picking up lots of points at the end of this round. In fact, there's the shots at the end there. The only one I'm not sitting on is that one, I think. But the zombie's moving towards it. So I've got that one, and that one, all 3 with dogs. And I think I activated them last to make sure they didn't get shot down while on the objective. So the Aberration, you can see, has moved down there because I was saving that till near the end as well, because he moved one of his bike things over here. So I used a move dice to get the Aberration down there to maul it to death, because obviously the Aberration is going to die the next time anything touches it. So I thought I might as well go down swinging, and it did. So 7-0 at the end, going very well. So there's my command dice. Moving and fighting, things Plague love the most, things they do best. And he's got lots of moving, which he doesn't really want to do, and extra activations, which can be useful. So his rocket launcher finishes off the Aberration, as expected, but at least I took something out first. Now this stage 2 has got all the way up here, and he is piled in with everything on it. I think I went in trying to kill his leader, and then he sent these guys in there as backup, but they're not really doing anything to the stage 2. It's just a bit of a stalemate. So my Plague Swarm and my dog have jumped onto this tower, and there's actually 4 different cubes within this tower, which gets very confusing because of the way it's positioned. So there's one cube there that I'm not in at all. I'm not in this one here. The Plague Swarm is in this cube here, and the dog, I'm not sure actually. I think the dog might be in this one as well. So my dog moved up there and finished off his drone that was there. Then my stage 1 has gone onto this objective. I've got a zombie up onto that objective, a zombie on that objective. Because the dogs got there first in round 1, in round 2 the zombies have actually caught up now, so they can sit on objectives, while I've got him penned in close combat in the 2 corners. So I'm just going to be racking up points on these objective areas while also mauling in combat. So this is going very well indeed. And 13-5 at the end of that, so I've extended the lead a little bit, and the closer it gets to 20, I don't care. If he could score 12 points in the next round, it wouldn't matter to me as long as I get to 20. And they're activating, moving and fighting. A good round of dice again. And he's got some splats. I can't remember what his splat does exactly. So my HM, I think that's the grenade launcher, has moved up onto here so it can have a direct view of the tower, which makes it easier to hit. And then I was able to land it, and I think it may have killed this guy here and wounded that one. So the grenade launcher finally does something useful. The stage 1 has moved up into this cube, ready to pounce. Should they kill him off, the stage 1 is going to go in there and eat someone's face. You can see the stage 2 has taken some damage, a couple of damage points there. Okay, then you can see I'm just sitting on all the objectives. The dog and the plague swarm have killed off what they were fighting for the most part there. So I'm going to get plenty of points. And that's going to be it. 24 points to 5. He didn't pick up any in turn 3, so that's just the end of the game. 24 points. Very quick work indeed. Lots of killing done. The setup, I think, favoured me because he wasn't able to get the necessary firing line he would have wanted with his combat troops in front of it to defend. He really had to split up a bit and then face threats from both sides in each corner. So I think the setup did favour me a little bit. And also I won the recon test, which I never do, and I was able to pick these corners which were higher than the others. So he was never shooting from higher ground, really, which is a big deal. The extra dice can help. And had he been shooting from high ground, maybe he would have killed the Aberration instantly in turn 1. So that could have swayed things. But as you can see, I'm sitting on all the objectives, killing left and right, and I'm poised to kill should he have ever killed that thing. So there we go. So that's 4-0. We didn't kill each other's leaders again. So now I am on 6 tournament points. So if I can do all right in game 4, then I should be heading towards comfortable mid-table position after that nice juicy win there. So breakthrough version 2. This is a scenario where your models have to escape off the edge of the enemy deployment zone. However, normally in this scenario, no one actually does that because you just get the victory points that the model's worth, but then they can't kill anything for the rest of the game because they're gone. So the way they've tried to tweak it is that you get the victory points they're worth +1. So if you send a zombie off the edge of the board, it's actually worth a victory point now. If you send a dog off the edge, it's worth 2. If you send an Aberration off the edge, then it would be worth 5 now instead of 4. So it's actually worth considering sending your models off the edge of the table now because you get that extra point for it. So I think that's a definitely a very good change to the scenario. I'm against Plague again. This is a very different list, though, this time from the one I faced earlier and from mine. It has an Aberration, so same as me there. It has, let's see, I think he also has a stage 1 as the leader, but he has 2 bursters. He has 4 dogs rather than 3, and he has the crows, whatever they're called, the birds of death. He has 2 of those. He might have, is it 4? It might be 5 dogs, actually. There's one up there as well. So if I had more dog models, I would take them instead of zombies, definitely. And I think he's got an HMG probably there as well. It's an obvious choice. So with my setup, I'm hoping that the models on this flank are going to escape off the table, which is why I've put zombies there, because they're so terrible, just want to escape with them, get a point, and a bit of cover for them as well there with the stage 2 and the plague swarm there to do any fighting. And on this side, I've put all the meat, because you can see there's a big open area here which I'll be able to access and hopefully just munch whatever comes in there, because he's put a lot of his big stuff on that side as well. So I just want to block it all off. And hopefully, because I've got much more firepower than him, I can blow holes in his lines, hopefully on this side, and then march some of my models off the table and get the points for them. That's my plan, because I don't want to be dropping mortars on Aberrations. It's not really going to help. So you can see the birds that he's got there. He's got one there, and the other one I think has moved up in deployment. Oh, no, it's there. There we go. The bursters are quite tasty. So activation, move, shoot, and some useless splats. And he's got useless splat, and he got rid of the 2 extra shoot dice he has because he's only got 1 gun, so he would only be able to use 1 of them at max. So he's just got 2 totally wasted command dice there. So first things first, my HMG is hopped up on there. His HMG is hopped up on there. And he's got a bird up there as well. So my mortar causes a bit of devastation there. Pins his stage 2. Grenade launcher kills his HMG. I think I actually wounded it with the grenade, and then it also got blown off the edge and landed right down here somewhere. So that died. So he has no guns at all now. So anytime he rolls a shoot command dice, it's totally wasted. And down this flank, Plague Swarm is going to be escorting the zombies down there. Over here, Aberration, stare down. So that's going to be an interesting battle. And the stage 1 is just chilling there as well. 2 dogs versus 1 dog. I'm quite happy with those odds there for now. He's got a dog and a stage 2 coming down this side. So it's going to be an interesting battle, that. But I'm hoping to cause devastation with my firepower over here. A dog hiding under the tower, so I can't lob indirect fire onto it. And the burst are moving up as well. So I think the bird up there is actually suppressed because I used a shoot dice with the HMG to suppress it. I think I suppressed both of the birds, actually, just to slow them down a bit. So this bird gets into the stage 2, but doesn't do anything. And you can see the overview at the end of the turn here. So he's got a lot of meat in the middle with his bursters as well coming forward. His leader's hanging back. Whether he's concerned I'm going to break through and he wants to stop me escaping the table, I don't know. But I think the stage 1's a bit slow for that job anyway. And of course, mine isn't much further forward. It's exactly the same spot, really, than his. And what I'm going to do is I'm using this. I want to use the stage 2 and the Plague Swarm to support each other because they're both size 2. They can help each other out in fights. So if one of them's in trouble, the other will just hop into that fight. So at the moment, I would like to get the Plague Swarm into combat with this bird. So 3-1 at the end of that turn. So what did I kill? I killed the HMG, and I must have killed a dog or 2 as well. And he killed, I don't remember. Did he kill something? Maybe he found some intel. I don't recall. Anyway, next turn. So I've got movement and shoot, which is nice because I've got lots of guns at the moment. He's got lots of activation and move, which is good for him as well. So I do manage to get the Plague Swarm in there and kill off that bird, as planned. HMG has an open shot on this guy and pins him, and I'm not sure, he might wound him as well. I can't remember exactly. And this dog was also pinned by the HMG as well. Then his explodey guy finds, look at that, intel. Victory point for him. So the mortar, because he actually activated this guy and stood up. So I mortared him and put him down again because I want to assault him in a moment. Then this explodey guy was also put down by indirect fire. He's not dead though. Over here, some dog-on-dog action. No damage yet. And my stage 2, I think I used a move dice to get him all the way down here to attack the prone stage 2 of his that I just knocked down with the mortar and killed it in one go, which is nice. My zombie's moving up that way as well. So these 2 models, they just want to escape the table now. My Plague Swarm is going to hopefully take on this fat exploder. And he's actually got a dog into my HMG up there now, which isn't very nice. Aberration versus Aberration. No damage done yet. And my stage 1 is just standing on the roof staring down. His is chilling at the back. 9-3 at the end of turn 2, so it's going well. I'm on course to get a win here. Now, his explodey manages, and the dog managed to get to the mortar and do some damage to it because, let's have a look. I think it was this one, used a move dice. It would have been like 1, 2, 3. Can it move that far? I don't know, probably. And the dog just jumped in from there. So the Plague Swarm does actually kill the big fat exploder in there, but then gets bounced off in that direction because it's like an explosion when it goes off, as you'd imagine. My zombie gets killed by the dog in there after the zombie came in to help the HMG, so that's not going well. Up here, though, these two are going further towards his deployment zone to escape the table. The fight over here, his dog is beating my dog slightly. And my stage 1 has jumped down to threaten these two that are fighting the mortar. So as soon as that mortar dies, I'm hoping that he's not going to get movement dice, because if he kills the mortar and just jumps off the table, he'll get some victory points. But whichever model's left, I'll be able to eat. Aberration versus Aberration, he has struck the first blow there. And my Plague Swarm is going to be heading in that direction, trying to escape, probably. So I've got lots of move dice, so that's very nice. And he's got a few as well. So his dog kills my HMG, getting a victory point, then escapes the table, getting victory points. So that's a good one for him there. My zombie gets off the table. My stage 2 gets off the table, getting me 3 points for that guy escaping, 1 for the zombie. Down here you can see that he killed the mortar with the dog and then escaped the table, I believe. And then I moved down there and tried to kill the burster with my stage 1. Couldn't kill it at this stage. Aberration's still fighting. His dog kills my dog and is working its way towards the edge. And my Plague Swarm doesn't want to go further than that because his stage 1 is still up there, as far as I recall. So 15-10. And if I can get 5 more points, then I'll have a win. If I can't, then we're heading to Drawsville. So lots of fight dice, not many move. And he's got just extra dice mainly there. So his dog makes it off the table, I think. What actually may have happened, I think I may have, when the mortar died, I think I may have killed that dog, actually. I don't think that one escaped. That one escapes now, but that one didn't. I think that one got eaten. Then over here, he does more damage to the Aberration. So at the end, because I'm already 3 damage points down here, I'm just not going to do anything when I activate, so he can't finish me off. Over here, because I know even if I get my Plague Swarm killed, he can't win at this stage, I decide I might as well take the chance. I can't escape the table, I haven't got enough distance to move. So I'll get in there, try and kill his leader. With a bit of luck, you never know. But unfortunately, couldn't kill it. It would have been nice. I do manage to kill the burster, though. So victory point for that. And there's the table at the end. So the Aberrations having their stalemate. Plague Swarm still alive. A few of my models escaped the table. He got a couple of dogs to escape. So in the end, 16-11 to me, which is a draw because no one reaches 20. So 2 points each. No leaders died. So wow. So not a horrendous end, but then actually we realised that we hadn't added on the extra points for the dogs because the dogs were worth 2 points and not 1, so he'd calculated it wrong. And then he corrected it, so it was actually 16-13, so slightly closer. And that is the last image from the tournament. So, a loss followed by a draw, followed by a win, followed by a draw. You would think that a record like that should land someone perfectly in mid-table since it's exactly average results, but it actually landed me in the lower end of the mid-table. If it was 12 people, I think I was about 8th. The fact that I didn't kill any leaders throughout the day wasn't ideal. A lot of the leaders I was facing were hiding, so that didn't help. I didn't really get near to them. And I don't really have that much speed to chase them down, because dogs, I mean, which leaders are dogs going to take out exactly? They'll just be kamikazing into most leaders, and all my hard-hitting stuff is really slow for the most part. So it's not ideal chasing down people's leaders when there's extra points to be had in a tournament in that situation. And let's see, any comments? My short story actually had joint top number of votes in the competition, and there was some kind of prize for that. There was a medal or something. However, because I voted for my own story, then the other person won, which is unfortunate, because I wasn't really voting for my own on my own behalf. I was voting for my own story on behalf of the millions of people who were unable to cast votes, and the people who maybe live in impoverished nations who don't have access to the internet or the Deadzone Fanatics group, so they weren't able to look at my wonderful story. Maybe I'll put a link to the story in the description, because I think it's important that the world knows the tale that I was able to weave majestically with my words, which told a tale of forbidden love in the ranks of the plague. which I think is reason enough for someone to go and check it out. So the winning army in this tournament was Marauders. It wasn't the one I faced. And I think the other armies that finished at the top, I think the humans or the corporation or whatever they're called, the enforcers, I think they're called in Deadzone, aren't they? The corporation in Dreadball, enforcers in Deadzone, I think is how it works. I think they finished second, and I think someone with Plague finished third. I think it may have been the Plague army that defeated me that finished third from game one. So quite a similar list to mine. So I'll just go backwards through the images now as I give you some thoughts on what I'm going to do to my list. The grenade launcher and the mortar didn't really perform, but I think the mortar warrants its inclusion because when it actually hits, it can do damage. The grenade launcher, it hits, but rarely does it actually kill anything. You have to get quite lucky, but the mortar just has that extra dice, and then when someone tries to fight it, it's harder to kill as well. So I like the mortar. The grenade launcher didn't do that well, so I might take that out. I didn't take any Plague Teraton this time. I may bring him back because he is actually quite juicy. So I tried a tournament without him. The zombies aren't good really unless you're taking lots of them. So 2 might be not ideal. Maybe I should take the stage 3 general and not the stage 1. And then I could turn people into zombies, so I would still get use out of my zombie models, and I would have a less expensive leader who actually gets to fight things rather than mostly hiding like the stage 1 ends up doing, because he gets shot and then he gets at death's door, so he has to just hide at the end of the game usually. He's really too slow. He's too slow to do anything useful in combat. He doesn't tend to die very much, but I'm not sold really. And his splat is so terrible as well. Wall under TV. Did many people run Forge Fathers? I didn't see too many Forge Fathers at all, actually. I don't know if there was even one Forge Fathers army. It was mostly Plague and Marauders. I can't think of too much else that I saw. With the changes that were made before this tournament, for example, the Aberration being given Tough made a big difference, so quite a lot of people were running those. And Marauders, I don't know if they're the ultimate cheese, but people seem to say they are. I don't know whether that's true or not. And let's see, I'm not sure there were too many other armies at all, actually. I definitely looked at all the armies because I was assessing for my best painted vote, and I don't remember too much outside of Plague and Marauders at all. There may have been something else creeping in there. There was the one Enforcers army, at least. Okay, working our way back to the beginning. Martin the Warrior has popped up in the chat, who says hi. And then says, is this the Deadzone tournament? Yes, it is. So if you're just tuning in now, you should go back to the beginning and watch the whole video in all its glory, so you can find out exactly what transpired on this fateful of days. So I'm thinking if I take out the stage 1, bring in the Weasley general who can turn people into zombies and just hide, take out the grenade launcher, maybe put the Teraton back in, take out the zombies, get some more dogs in there, possibly. I like the Plague Swarm. I wouldn't mind getting a second one. Let's see. The Plague Swarm definitely does well all the time, but in certain scenarios, it is hindered a bit because it's a beast. So in the scenarios, if they're going to start putting more emphasis, like in this scenario here, if they're going to put more emphasis on collecting items and doing things with them, then it would be handy to have less beast models in there. So the Plague Swarm, not ideal in those circumstances. The Aberration, I like. It's just really expensive. And often you'll find that you don't get as much killing done with it as you would think, because it's not hugely fast. It's not that slow either. It's not slow like the stage 1, but it's not that difficult to avoid either. So you will get to fight with it probably. And with Tough as well, it's a lot more survivable. So definitely worth taking, I would say, but it's not the ultimate mauling machine like you would think. Okay, continuing. I should be almost back to the start soon. Wraith 13, hi, have I missed much? Yes, you've missed the entire video, so you should start from the beginning. And there we go. So, Deadzone tournament report from Element Games, return to Nexus Psi. The prize support for this tournament. There was quite a lot, actually. There were some laser cut buildings, which I think were from TT Combat, possibly. There was some stuff there from Bad Squiddo Games, and there was some from Mantic as well. The prize I picked up, because the way they work it at this tournament, the top players get a medal, and then there's a big pile of prizes, and then whoever finished last goes up to pick a prize first, and then everyone else goes up in reverse order to pick a prize. So if some prizes are deemed better than others, then the lowest ranked players can get those first, which I think is a nice touch. So I managed to get a piece of laser cut terrain, which is some kind of fortress barricades or something, sci-fi looking. So we'll see if I ever manage to get that put together. I'm sure I will at some point. Anything else to note? Element Games as a venue, as usual, it's always good. The shop, one of the better wargaming shops that I've seen in terms of the vast amount of stuff they have. They have a lot of board games in there as well now. The toilet facilities, clean. The one downside is that they have the world's least powerful hand dryer, which I'm not sure if that's a plus or a minus, actually, because if your hands get too dry and then you have to leave the toilet via the door handle, then anyone that didn't wash their hands, and I'm going to guarantee that some people didn't wash their hands, then they'll have transplanted all their bacteria onto the door handle. So then there's no moisture left on your hands for you to kind of have that secondary I've just left via a dirty door handle. I'm glad my hands are still wet so I can give them another rub now that I've left the room. So there is that to consider as well. Maybe that's a conscious choice. Maybe that's why the hand dryer is so weak. So if that is the case, then you've got to give them some credit for thinking of that. But I'm going to assume it's because it's just a cheap hand dryer. Okay, on that note, I think it's time to wrap this one up. Actually, I'm hopefully going to start working on my Deadzone board soon. I want to actually build one rather than just using the standard mat. I've got some ideas in mind for some kind of sewage system. And at some point, I would like to do another Deadzone force or add to my plague, but I've got so much on the painting table right now, I can't justify it at the moment until I've cleared out at least a few items. So we shall see. I don't have any other tournaments planned at the moment for any particular game system. There is one for Kings of War at some point in a month or so, I think, but I'm not sure if I can attend that one yet. So we shall see. Okay, time to bring this one to a close. Anyone who just joined us in the last few minutes should go back to the start and watch the whole thing to get the exciting non-stop entertainment. And with that, goodbye. And don't forget to check out all the various links in the description. Ta-ta.